Imagine walking into a restaurant kitchen, expecting to be mocked, and leaving as a legend. Tonight's story follows a quiet woman who was ridiculed by a proud head chef and forced to cook a dish meant to humiliate her, but when her knife touched the cutting board, the entire kitchen fell silent. Every slice, every flavor, every movement revealed a secret no one expected. She wasn't just a home cook, she was Elena Varga, a Michelin-starred chef who had vanished from the culinary world. Watch as her calm precision humbles the arrogant chef, shakes an entire staff, and reignites a legend whispered about in kitchens worldwide. Will she return to reclaim her throne? Or will this single dish be enough to leave her mark forever? Stay with me, because this story isn't just about cooking. It's about power, respect, and the moment a queen decided to remind the world who she truly is. Asterisk, asterisk. The kitchen was alive with noise. Pots clanged. Steam hissed from copper pans. The smell of roasted garlic and seared meat filled the air, thick and heavy. Fluorescent lights glared down, making every surface shine with an unforgiving gleam. Head chef barked orders in a sharp, clipped voice. His words cut through the chaos like a blade. "All right, lady," he said, pointing to a tall steel counter. "Make this perfectly now." He slid a recipe card toward her. The dish was a complex masterpiece. Layered seafood terrin with saffron foam, microgreens, and edible flowers. The kitchen staff glanced at each other. Some smirked. Others whispered under their breath. She stood still for a moment, her hands pale but steady, rested on the counter. The chef tapped his foot impatiently. "Do not just stand there. Get to it." She nodded once. Her eyes scanned the ingredients laid out before her. The fish glistened like silver in the harsh light. The saffron threads looked like tiny strands of fire. She reached for the knives. Her fingers curled around the handle with practiced ease. The blade glimmered as she lifted it, testing its weight. The whispers grew louder. "She does not look like she belongs here. Probably never held a knife in her life." She ignored them. Her movements were calm, precise. She filleted the fish in one smooth motion. The meat fell away cleanly. No waste, no hesitation. The sous chef's eyes widened. She sliced vegetables with rapid, even strokes. The rhythm of her knife filled the kitchen, sharp and steady. No one spoke. Even the head chef stopped pacing. The sizzling of the pan was loud in the sudden silence. She layered flavors, one after the other, with perfect timing. A rich aroma spread through the air. It was no longer just cooking, it was artistry. The staff exchanged uneasy glances. The head chef leaned closer. His brow furrowed. He watched as she plated the turners. Her hands moved with elegance. It's like a painter completing a masterpiece. The foam was light, perfectly whipped. The microgreens were placed with surgical precision. She set the plate down on the counter. The colors were vibrant, the composition flawless. The head chef reached for a fork. He tasted the dish. His face went pale. The flavors exploded on his tongue. The staff leaned in, waiting for his reaction. His hand trembled slightly as he set the fork down. "Where did you learn to cook like this?" Her lips curved into a small, knowing smile. The whisper started again, nervous this time. She did not answer. She simply folded her hands in front of her and waited. The chef tasted again, desperate to understand the perfection before him. His voice grew quiet, almost strained. This is Michelin level." The staff froze. Their smirks vanished. Even the clanging of pots in the background seemed to stop. She tilted her head slightly, her gaze steady, almost cold. The head chef felt sweat bead at his temples. He looked around the kitchen, his authority crumbling under the weight of her silence. His pride faltered as he realized the truth creeping into his mind. This woman was no amateur. She was a master, and she was watching him. He cleared his throat, his voice breaking the tension. What is your name?" She picked up the knife again, wiping it carefully with a pristine cloth. Her fingers traced the blade as if it were a familiar friend. The smell of saffron and roasted fish still hung in the air, intoxicating and heavy. The kitchen staff stood, frozen, every pair of eyes locked on her. She looked up, her gaze sharp, unflinching, and in that charged silence, the power in the kitchen shifted. Asterisk, the head chef swallowed hard. He felt as though the walls of the kitchen had closed in on him. The once bright lights now felt harsh, exposing his unease. Her presence filled the room, calm but commanding. "I asked you a question," he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. She finally spoke. "My name is Elena Varga." The name sent a ripple through the staff. A young line cook dropped a spoon. A sous chef's eyes widened in disbelief. Everyone in that kitchen knew the name. Michelin-star's international acclaim. A legend whispered about in culinary schools. The head chef's lips parted, but no words came out. Elena's hands moved smoothly as she set down the knife. The blade gleamed under the lights. "Years ago," it said softly, "I used to run a kitchen like this." Her voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. "I stepped away. People forgot. Clearly you did too." She glanced at him, her expression unreadable. The head chef's face flushed red. His arrogance crumbled. Like a stale pastry, he had barked orders at a master. The realization burned in his chest. Elena stepped forward, the scent of saffron still lingering around her. "You judged me before I even touched a pan," she said. Her tone was measured, almost cold. "You thought I was beneath you." The staff shuffled nervously, her eyes darting between the two chefs. No one dared to speak. She picked up the plate she had prepared and set it gently in front of him. "Go ahead," she said. "Critique it." Her words cut sharper than any knife. The head chef's hand trembled as he lifted his fork again. The flavors were flawless, layered with a precision he had never achieved. Every bite humbled him further. He set the fork down carefully. Unable to meet her gaze, Elena stood tall, her presence commanding the entire kitchen. She had no need to raise her voice. The silence was her weapon. The staff stared at her with awe, their earlier mockery now replaced with reverence. The head chef finally spoke, his voice low. "Did not know who you were?" Her expression did not change. "You did not need to know who I was," she said. "You should have respected me anyway." Her words hung in the air, heavy and unrelenting. The kitchen felt colder, quieter. Every chef in the room felt the weight of her statement. The head chef's shoulders sagged, his pride shattered. Elena turned away from him, her movements calm and deliberate. She reached for a clean towel and wiped her hands. The simple act exuding elegance. The staff parted for her instinctively, as if she carried an invisible crown. Her reputation long buried had returned with a single dish, and the man who thought he ruled this kitchen now stood silent, exposed, and utterly powerless. She placed the towel neatly on the counter and turned back to face him. "I came here to observe," she said softly, "but it seems I have taught a lesson instead." Her gaze swept over the kitchen staff. Not one of them dared to move. Elena's calm smile returned, but it carried an edge sharper than any knife in the room. The air felt thick, charged with unspoken tension, and in that heavy silence, the balance of power had shifted forever. Asterisk. The head chef lowered his eyes. His once confident stance had vanished, replaced by unease. The clatter of the busy kitchen had slowed to an unnatural quiet. Even the simmering pots on the stove seemed to hush. Elena stepped forward, her heels clicking. Softly on the tiled floor, every movement she made was precise, deliberate, controlled. "You built this kitchen on fear," she said, her voice smooth but cutting. The staff shifted nervously. "Fear does not create great food," she continued. "It destroys creativity, crushes passion." Her words pierced the room like cold steel. One of the younger chefs lowered his head, shame flickering in his eyes. Another tightened his grip on a ladle, his knuckles white. The head chef's jaw clenched, but he said nothing. Elena stepped closer. To him, her shadow falling across his station. Her gaze was steady, sharp, unrelenting. "I have seen kitchens like this before," she said. "They collapse." The words hung heavy, pressing down on every heart in the room. She reached for the plate again, lifting it with a grace that made even the simplest motion feel commanding. "This dish," she said, holding it up, was not made with fear. It was made with love, skill, and respect for the craft. The staff's eyes followed her every move. She set the plate back down. It's untouched now, but glowing under the lights like a work of art. Then she turned her back to him. The head chef flinched. At the gesture, his pride stinging deeper than any insult. "You wanted to test me?" she said softly, her voice steady. "You wanted to humiliate me?" She faced him again, her expression calm but dangerous. "But you only humiliated yourself." The sous chef's breath caught. The line cooks froze. A bead of sweat rolled down the head chef's temple. He opened his mouth to respond, but no sound came out. His throat felt tight, as if her presence alone had stolen his voice. Elena leaned forward slightly, her words low but sharp. "Respect is the foundation of every great kitchen," said, "and today you have none." The head chef stepped back, his confidence shattered. His own staff looked at him differently now, their respect faltering. Elena picked up her knife one last time. She spun it gently in her hand, testing its balance before setting it down with care. The sound of the blade on steel echoed through the silent kitchen. She removed her apron, folding it neatly. Then she looked around at the staff, her gaze softening slightly. "You have talent," she told them. "Do not let arrogance snuff it out." Her words struck like lightning, awakening something in the young chefs. Some nodded faintly. Others simply stared at her, their faces flushed with a mix of awe and guilt. The head chef stood rigid, unable to move or speak. His empire of intimidation was crumbling before his eyes, and Elena Varga was the quiet storm that had undone it all. She turned toward the door, her posture straight and regal. Every step she took carried the weight of her reputation. The air felt electric, charged with tension and respect. No one dared to speak as she reached the threshold. She paused, her hand on the doorframe, then she glanced back, her eyes locking on the trembling chef one last time. "Greatness," she said calmly, "is never loud." And with that, she walked out, leaving the kitchen in stunned silence. The scent of saffron and roasted fish lingered long after she was gone, and every person in that room knew they would never forget this day. The door swung closed behind her. With a soft click, the sound echoed through the kitchen like a gavel striking. For a long moment, no one moved. The head chef stood frozen, his knuckles white as he gripped the edge of the counter. The staff exchanged glances, their faces pale, their eyes wide. The silence was heavy, suffocating, broken only by the faint hum of the kitchen's ventilation. A line cook cleared his throat nervously, but no words came. The sous chef set down a ladle with a quiet clink, his usual smirk gone. The head chef finally exhaled, the breath shaky, uneven. He looked at the plate she had left behind. It was still perfect, untouched, glowing under the kitchen lights. His reflection stared back at him in the polished rim of the plate, and for the first time, he did not see authority. He saw fear and shame. One of the younger chefs stepped forward. "Chef, was that really?" His voice trailed off, barely a whisper. The head chef nodded once, his jaw tight. "Michelin," he said, his voice hoarse. The word carried weight. A collective gasp rippled through the kitchen. The realization settled in. Like a storm cloud, the woman they had mocked, the woman they had dismissed, she was one of the most celebrated chefs in the world. The sous chef rubbed his forehead, guilt washing over him. "We laughed at her," he muttered under his breath. Another line cook swallowed hard, shame burning his cheeks. The kitchen felt smaller now, suffocating. The head chef turned away from them all, his pride crumbling like burnt pastry. He had been exposed, humbled, and no amount of shouting or posturing could ever rebuild the authority he had just lost. He looked at his staff, their expressions a mixture of awe and unease. "Get back to work," he said quietly, but his voice no longer carried weight. The command fell flat. They moved only out of habit, not respect. The kitchen roared back to life. But the energy had shifted. The clanging of pots felt hollow. The sizzling pans sounded distant. Every mind in that room was somewhere else still, replaying the sight of Elena Varga standing tall, knives in hand, commanding the room without a single. A raised voice, the youngest cook, hesitated near the pass. He stared at the flawless dish. Its aroma filled the air, rich and warm, yet sharp like the truth it carried. His hand trembled slightly as he reached for a fork. The head chef stopped him with a sharp look. "Leave it," he said softly. The young cook froze. "She left it as a lesson," the chef muttered. And he was right. That plate, untouched, would remain there for hours, a silent reminder of what true mastery looked like. A reminder that power was not always loud, and that respect, once lost, was nearly impossible to regain. Outside the kitchen, Elena walked calmly down the quiet hallway. Her steps echoed softly, her expression serene. She adjusted the cuffs of her coat, her mind already far from the chaos she had left behind. Yet there was a quiet fire in her eyes. Not anger, not pride. Something sharper. She knew the weight of her presence. She knew the lesson she had delivered, and she knew that kitchen would never be the same again. Elena stepped out into the cool evening air. The city streets buzzed faintly in the distance. But here, behind the restaurant, everything was calm. She inhaled deeply, letting the night breeze wash away the heavy scent of saffron and steel. Her heels clicked softly against the pavement as she walked, each step steady and deliberate. The restaurant's back door shut behind her, muffling the sounds of chaos within. She could almost feel the tension she left behind. Hanging in that kitchen like smoke, her hands were steady, her posture flawless. But her mind replayed every detail of the encounter, the arrogance in his tone, the condescension in his eyes, and then the silence when he tasted perfection. A faint smile tugged at the corner of her lips, not of triumph, but of certainty. For years she had stayed in the shadows, content to let the culinary world forget her name. But tonight reminded her that mastery is never truly forgotten. Her reputation had entered that kitchen before she even spoke her name, and now it would linger long after she was gone. She passed a glowing street lamp, its golden light reflecting in her eyes. Her phone buzzed softly. In her coat pocket, a message from an old colleague appeared on the screen. "Are you coming back?" She stared at the words for a long moment. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, but she did not respond. Instead, she slipped the phone back into her pocket. Her thoughts were far away now, drifting to memories of Michelin stages, applauding crowds, and flashing cameras. She had left that life behind. But tonight, the taste of competition had returned to her like a forgotten flavor, and it was intoxicating. Behind her, in the restaurant's glowing windows, the head chef stood alone. His reflection in the glass was pale, hollow. He glanced down at the untouched plate. Still sitting on the pass, he knew that dish would haunt him. Every garnish, every flavor, every perfect, effortless detail. The staff moved quietly around him. Their eyes, avoiding his respect, had shifted, not toward him, but toward the woman who had walked out into the night. Without a word, Elena's name was already being whispered among them like a legend. And legends, once spoken aloud, never fade. She reached the corner of the street and paused. The city lights stretched before her, glimmering like stars on the pavement. A black car idled nearby. The driver stepped out quickly and opened the door for her, bowing slightly. "Where to, Madame Varga?" he asked softly. She stepped inside, her expression calm, her eyes unreadable. "Home," she replied, but as the door closed and the car pulled away, a thought lingered in her mind. Perhaps it was time. Perhaps the quiet storm she carried was meant to rise again in kitchens across the world. Whispers would soon spread. Elena Varga had cooked again, and nothing would ever be the same. Asterisk. The car glided through the city streets, its tinted windows shielding her from curious eyes. Elena rested her head lightly against the seat. The faint hum of the engine, a calm contrast to the storm she had left behind. Her reflection in the glass was serene, yet her thoughts churned with quiet intensity. She remembered the faces of the young cooks. Wide-eyed and eager, they had been stifled by fear. She had seen that same fear before, in kitchens ruled by ego instead of passion, and every time those kitchens had crumbled, the driver glanced at her through the rearview mirror but said nothing. Even he felt the weight of her, silenced. Her hands, still carrying the faint scent of saffron, rested neatly in her lap. The world outside was a blur of lights and shadows. She thought of the head chef's trembling hand, the fork slipping from his fingers, the way his pride cracked in front of his entire staff. For a moment, she almost pitied him. Almost. The car slowed as it approached a towering building. The doorman straightened immediately when he saw her, opening the glass doors with a respectful bow. "Good evening, Madame Varga," he said softly. Elena nodded once and stepped inside, her heels echoing in the marble-floored lobby, the scent of polished wood and faint. Jasmine greeted her. She moved with quiet grace, her presence commanding without effort. An elevator door slid open. She stepped in, pressing the button for the top floor. As the elevator ascended, her eyes drifted closed for a brief moment. The silence wrapped around her like silk, but in that silence, her thoughts sharpened. The culinary world thought she had vanished. They thought she had retired, burned out, or simply walked away. They were wrong. She had been watching, waiting, and tonight she had sent a message without saying a word. The elevator chimed softly. The doors opened to a sprawling penthouse, bathed in warm golden light. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the city skyline. Glittering against the dark sky, she slipped off her coat and draped it neatly over a chair. The kitchen here was silent, immaculate, every knife and pan in its place. She ran her fingers along the marble countertop, her touch light, almost reverent. This was her sanctuary, a place where the noise of the world could not reach her, but her mind was already alive with possibilities. Menus, flavors, challenges. She could hear the whispers of ambition creeping back into her thoughts, and she welcomed them. Elena moved to the pantry and selected a small jar of truffle salt. She opened it, inhaling its earthy aroma, and for the first time in years, she smiled, not politely, not coldly, but with genuine excitement. The fire within her was awake again. Far across the city, in the restaurant she had left behind, the head chef sat alone. In his office, the walls felt smaller than ever. He replayed every detail of the evening, his memory twisting like a knife. His arrogance had blinded him, and now the story of Elena Vargas's return would spread like wildfire. His empire, once unshakable, trembled at the edges. In kitchens across the city, whispers were already beginning. Her name was being spoken with reverence. Her legend was alive again, and soon the world would remember what true mastery looked like. Elena stood at her window, gazing out at the glittering skyline. Her eyes were calm, but her heart beat with quiet resolve. The storm she carried had only just begun to stir. A low rumble of thunder rolled over the city, distant but steady, as if echoing her thoughts. Elena set the wineglass down with a soft clink. The storm outside felt alive, mirroring the one brewing within her. She walked toward the tall windows, her silhouette framed by flashes of lightning. The streets below glistened from a sudden drizzle, neon signs reflecting off the wet pavement. Somewhere, a siren wailed faintly. Swallowed by the hum of the city, she rested her hand lightly on the glass, feeling the faint chill from the night air beyond. The scent of rain was faint, seeping through the cracks of the balcony doors. She breathed it in slowly, grounding herself. Her mind was calm, but every thought was razor-sharp. Every detail of tonight's confrontation replayed in perfect clarity. The smirk on the sous chef's face, the arrogance in the head chef's tone, the shift in the room when her knife began to move, that silence, that sudden heavy silence. Elena closed her eyes, recalling the faces of the younger chefs, the awe, the shame, the spark she had seen in their eyes. They had witnessed something rare, something they would never forget, and that mattered. It mattered more than humiliating a single man. It mattered because passion in a kitchen was contagious. If they remembered her hands, her precision, her command of flavor, they would never settle for less. She turned from the window, her long shadow stretching across the polished floor. Her phone buzzed again. Louder this time, the screen lit up with a familiar name. An old rival. She hesitated before answering. Elena. A voice on the other end said, smooth but edged with tension. I heard you cook tonight. The voice on the LALA day 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 day. Day 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 bad day 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 prudente bubble I day 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 by day 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 at a day 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 at a way day to die da 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 da. Travels fast, she replied, her tone even. Faster when it is about you, he said. There was a pause. Are you coming back? She did not answer immediately. Instead, she glanced at the leather notebook resting on the counter. Her fingers traced its cover absently. Maybe, she said at last. Her voice soft but certain. The silence on the other end was heavy. Then the world should prepare itself, he said finally. She ended the call without another word. Setting the phone face down, the storm outside grew louder, rain streaking the glass in shimmering trails. Elena walked into the kitchen again, her steps light but deliberate. She tied her apron around her waist, not out of necessity, but instinct. Her hands moved without thought, selecting ingredients, arranging tools, igniting the flame of the stove. It was late, far too late to be cooking, but tonight was different. Tonight, her passion demanded fire. She worked quickly, gracefully, each movement flowing into the next like choreography. The smell of butter and herbs filled the air. Blending with the earthy scent of rain, lightning flashed again, illuminating her face in sharp contrast, calm, focused, unstoppable. She plated the dish with meticulous care, placing the final garnish like a signature. Then she stepped back and looked at it, a small smile curving her lips. It was not for anyone else, not for critics, not for applause. It was for her. A reminder, a declaration. She still had it. She had never lost it, and if she chose to, she could take back everything she once owned in the culinary world. With one hand, she switched off the stove. With the other, she lifted the plate and set it gently in the center of the marble counter. The soft glow of the city lights reflected off the dish like a crown, and somewhere deep inside her, a decision was forming, a quiet, dangerous decision that would change everything. Asterisk, the rain outside softened to a gentle drizzle, the storm settling as if bowing to her calm resolve. Elena untied her apron and placed it neatly on the counter. Her movements slow and deliberate. The dish she had just prepared sat before her like a piece of art, steam curling upward in delicate wisps. She gazed at it for a long moment, then took a seat by the window. The city lights twinkling below like scattered stars. Her reflection in the glass looked different now, calmer, sharper, like a blade honed to perfection. For years, she had chosen silence over fame, solitude over chaos. But tonight had reminded her of something she had almost forgotten. Cooking was not just skill. It was her language, her power, and her legacy, far across the city. Whispers of her name were already spreading like wildfire through kitchens and dining rooms. Carried on hushed voices and wide-eyed retellings, chefs who had never met her spoke of her
as
if she were a myth come to life. And in that restaurant she had left behind, the head chef sat slumped at his desk, haunted by the memory of her presence, her precision, her quiet dominance, the dish he would never forget. Elena lifted her glass of wine and raised it toward her reflection. A quiet toast to herself. The world would soon remember her not as a legend of the past, but as a force reborn. She took a sip, savoring it, then set the glass down with finality. The rain eased completely. A soft moonlight washed over the city. Elena Varga leaned back in her chair, her eyes glimmering with calm determination. Whether she stepped back into the spotlight tomorrow or years from now, one truth remained certain. The queen of the culinary world had never truly left, and now her return was inevitable. With a final glance at the perfect dish glowing in the golden light of her kitchen, she smiled, a quiet, knowing smile. Her storm had passed, but the world's was only beginning.